Despite clunky gameplay by modern standards, there's been something incredibly satisfying about playing the Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, and Assault on Dark Athena in 2023. A big part of that could simply be the ability to play through two complete and cohesive games in less time than it takes to complete any recent AAA blockbuster. But I also think there are legitimately good games that hold up well enough, especially for those that enjoy aggressive stealth, scrappy firefights, and that striking high-contrast stencil-shadow look popularised by Doom 3. To keep these features to a manageable length and to highlight the one you should play if you've only got limited time, I'll begin with the 2009 remaster of Escape from Butcher Bay. Now, Escape from Butcher Bay was originally developed as a tie-in for 2004's The Chronicles of Riddick film, so expectations were low. However, Starbreeze Studios and Tygon Studios, which was founded by Vin Diesel, were given the freedom to create a prequel set before the events of 2000's Pitch Black. The result was a prison break narrative that, when not focused on Riddick's attempt to escape by causing as much mayhem as possible, provided some much-needed backstory to explain the sorcerer's eyeshine night vision and his seemingly contradictory nature, albeit with some brief vision shoehorned in to link it to the film. The plot is not particularly novel for the genre, or well told, even with some distinctly cinematic and impressively voiced cutscenes, but it's one of the rare cases where I think the game is better than the film. It moves at a brisk pace and serves as a great introduction to Riddick's grim universe, and as a means to push the player from set-piece to set-piece. It's a narrative packed with contrivances to keep things moving forward, and even a few slower-paced sections never drag on for long enough to affect the gameplay pacing. We learn that life on the frontier is dangerous and often short, with colonists facing the elements, disease, hostile alien wildlife, supposed lawbringers with no oversight, and no shortage of criminals on the run from established systems. Everyone and everything looks weather-beaten, downtrodden, desperate or menacing, be that the prisoners, guards, bounty hunters, settlers, and even the infrastructure. Hell, just look at those unsanitary health stations. This world is something that's exemplified by the utilitarian, rusting, blood-stained, and supposedly inescapable Butcher Bay, a double-max slam run by the sociopathic Hoxies, a warden more than happy to allow his underlings and prisoners to establish their own violent social structures, just so long as they don't jeopardize lucrative bounties or slow down mining operations. It's the perfect authoritarian setting for Riddick to tear apart from the inside, full of verbose, self-interested antagonists unsettled by his calm demeanor, frugal use of speech, and brutal confidence in the face of their threats. Riddick deceives, manipulates, and kills prisoners and guards alike, albeit mostly those who had it coming, and no matter how many times he's recaptured, it doesn't take long before he's out again and causing even more chaos in an attempt to escape and just be left alone. When it comes to the gameplay loop, Escape from Butcher Bay looks and feels like a first-person game from the mid-2000s, but offers a well-balanced mix of exploration, stealth, melee combat, and firefights. Like many of Starbreeze's first-person shooters, there's full-body awareness that grounds you in the world, while the game often cuts to a third-person view for several animations, presumably to get maximum mileage out of Vin Diesel's likeness. Many objectives even feature a light role-playing element as you decide how to complete mandatory tasks to gain information and the tools you need, or decide if you'll take on optional quests, usually the murderous kind, to gain some credits or smuggled weapons. That said, Escape from Butcher Bay is first and foremost a stealth game, and that factors into most scenarios, be that remaining undetected during exploration, or surviving a boss fight by sticking to the shadows. Riddick is quickly torn apart by gunfire, even on the lowest difficulty, and while it can feel unforgiving during a few trial-and-error set pieces, the game moves at a brisk pace with generous checkpoints, and a stealth system that rewards aggressively exploiting the predictable and forgetful enemy AI. You see, Riddick moves almost as fast as he jogs while in stealth, with the screen and HUD shifting between white and blue hues to clearly indicate if you're all but invisible. You're encouraged to stay that way as often as possible through a combination of sticking to shadowed areas, timing your movements based on patrols, or creating your own darkness by destroying light sources, ideally with a silent taser that also works to lure guards and aid you in dispatching patrolling pairs, stunning one while you rush down the other. If you get behind someone for a silentish neckbreak or not-so-silent melee weapon kill, you can also drag their bodies into the dark to avoid alerting more clueless guards and disrupting their predictable patrol routes. It's a distinctly gamey design, sure, but creates a satisfying rhythm as you go about methodically dispatching the guards in each new area. Even if you are spotted and need to go loud, the game is still forgiving enough to have them return to their patrol route eventually. During several periods where you're stripped of weapons, I'd also argue the stealth takedowns are far preferable to direct melee combat, which uses a wonky block, parry and combo system. It feels too unreliable with inconsistent hitboxes. Now, it's not in keeping with the films, but Riddick becomes the ultimate predator when using firearms, capable of dropping isolated guards with a burst or two, switching firing positions in the dark, and lining up shots on other panic guards as they fire blindly. To keep things vaguely balanced, a biometric system limits their use, and they feel powerful but inaccurate, forcing you to get uncomfortably close to enemies that alternate between popping in and out of cover, trying to flank you, or simply rushing you. A nice touch is that with Riddick's eyeshine ability, fighting with the lights on is sometimes preferable, as muzzle flash or enemy flashlights can blind him. Now, befitting the era in which it was developed, and another reason I think the pacing feels so brisk, is the level design. It's a mix of compact hub areas, think several small locations connected by loading screens, strung together by classic corridor-style levels, albeit sometimes with two potential routes to your objective. You can explore a few dark corners and side paths for collectible cigarette packs, but distractions are kept to a minimum, and frequent set pieces spice things up. You'll steal a guard uniform and explore their quarters looking for a target. You'll tear up parts of the facility in a riot suit and later a rocket-spewing security mech. And, somewhat less enjoyably, you'll battle through mutants in a sewer and annoying aliens in a mine. Riddick's considerable bounty is used as an excuse to keep him alive despite the mayhem he causes, giving the developers an excuse to repeat the prison break scenario twice over, before a final breakout leads into the action-packed finale. Now, returning to an earlier point, Escape from Butcher Bay won't feel like a particularly deep game if you're used to the modern progression systems and bloated campaigns, with only a few health stations that'll boost your total HP, and several story beats that'll force you to reacquire gear. But then, it doesn't need extraneous systems to compensate for a slow or repetitive gameplay loop, and it can be completed in 8 hours or so, and pushes you forward with the promise of escalating chaos. So many modern games seem terrified of letting you have fun from the start, presumably concerned they won't be able to string you along for hours by drip-feeding snippets of entertainment. In contrast, the Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay lets you tear up the prison from the start during a dream sequence tutorial, whetting your appetite for what's to come. It looks and feels dated, sure, but it remains entertaining from start to finish, which is a feat that few modern games can claim. Now, I played an Xbox 360 copy of Escape from Butcher Bay as part of the Chronicles of Riddick Assault on Dark Athena release, on original hardware, as it was never made backwards compatible. You can still find second-hand copies for the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, or pick it up on the Xbox 360 storefront, at least until its closure in mid-2024. Sadly, on PC, the game was removed from storefronts at some point, but GOG installers are still available in the wild. Lastly, I want to thank World of Longplays for the footage, as I'm not set up to capture from my older consoles. If you've got this far, please consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow.